Hi folks, so I'm here in one of my favourite places to sit in our food forest to talk about one of our not so favourite topics. And this is a gardening subject that doesn't really get discussed very much, and that is how we deal with rodents. And for about the first 3 years of growing food quite intensively here, we didn't actually have a problem with rats or mice or voles at all. And then all of a sudden it became apparent that they were around. And we did what we thought was the right thing at the time, and also the thing that we felt permaculture taught us to do. And that was just to let nature find its balance. And so we did nothing. And after a while, we realized that we couldn't do nothing. We started losing a lot of crops, particularly tuber crops, like a lot of our sweet potatoes were being really eaten into. We were starting to notice holes in our beds, burrows underneath things. Roots were starting to get damaged. Actually last year I lost one of our really precious schizandra plants in the food forest, and I'm pretty sure that that was actually from voles chewing the roots of the plant, and it'd only been in a couple of years, so it was still establishing. Some older plants would be able to take that, but no, this one, with the drought as well, it just about finished it off. So yeah, a couple of years ago it became apparent that we needed to step in and start taking some action. And I realise now we were actually quite lucky for those first few years, because looking back now in hindsight, 2 years ago something changed in this area. And that is, we have one big house up here that overlooks our property. And 2 years ago that house was sold. And prior to that, the previous owners used to keep poultry, and they used to keep birds in aviaries. And so I realised that they probably kept all of the rats and mice and voles up there because of all the bird food that would have been around and been dropped on the floor. And yet it was only when the house was sold that then all of this wildlife probably just started to move out and find its way to the next best location and food source, which for us, unfortunately, was here, Freedom Forest. So something that's really important to us is looking after ourselves and also looking after our environment and nature as much as possible, and keeping things as clean and chemical free as we possibly can. And so the topic of how to deal with things like rats and mice is a really difficult topic, because in essence not only does it mean having to kill animals which are part of nature and wildlife, but also the go-to option that is pretty much just what most people reach for is the very strong chemical mice and rat baits that are just so widely available on the market these days. So this has always been a really difficult topic for us, because we have dogs as well, and there are serious implications to using the widely available rat baits if pets get hold of them. But obviously it is really essential for us to protect our crops, especially when, as many of you will know, you put so much time and effort into growing these crops, and we all obviously do it for a really important reason as well. And then it dawned on me also that even if you're really careful with how you use the commercial rat baits, the poisons, and even if you're really safe for your pets and things like that, that's actually not the only thing, the only point of concern. You've also got secondary poisoning for things like owls, and it was one day I was really hearing all the owls around here, and it made me really think about the fact that the mice and the voles are going to be one of their food sources, and often the rat bait doesn't take effect immediately. So that's when my thought process got a lot deeper about what other options were available. And like I said, we did actually try the do nothing option for quite a long time and just hope that the owls did their job and nature found its balance. But the unfortunate thing with creatures like rats and mice and voles is they don't understand the permaculture principle of fair share. They will just take what they need and they will not obviously have the consideration as to whether there is enough left for us. So at this point I started doing a lot of research to see what other options were out there. And one of the things that I came up with was homemade rat and mice bait recipes that used a 2% salt recipe. And it's the 2% salt which is the key ingredient in these kind of recipes. And whilst it is not a nice thought still, what the 2% salt does is dehydrates the rodents, and obviously it kills them. But the good thing about this recipe is that the 2% salt supposedly doesn't have a detrimental effect on other wildlife, and also it's all with ingredients that you would have in your kitchen and that is safe to have in your kitchen and isn't going to be an issue if you get it on your hands or if your pets get hold of it. So whilst it is still not something that we like to do, it is unfortunately something that is necessary to help maintain the balance with when you are growing food for yourself. Well, at least that's what we found in our experience anyway. And the way I like to look at it is by growing food and providing so much more for ourselves, we're actually having lots of other beneficial impacts on wildlife and our planet. By using less packaging, by using less chemicals, not being a part of some of the conventional agriculture methods, by lessening our demand on industrial processes. So hopefully this one small act that we have to do to try and keep some balance does get counteracted in other ways. So using this form of bait we have found is a slightly more long-term method. We tend to put the bait down for about 2 to 6 weeks before we really start noticing a difference. And then we tend to have a break for a little while, and then we'll go back, and usually you know when you need to have a break because the bait will start being taken less. And then after a few weeks we will go back and start putting it down again, and we just keep it going like that. And it has definitely been helping since we have been doing this. And for something that we do need to do in our gardens, it feels like it is one of the better options. Now I know that there are things like humane traps out there as well, and that is great if you are operating on a smaller scale. But here we're on 3 acres, it's quite a large amount of land, and that would require a lot of humane traps and a lot of trips to different locations to relocate those animals. So yeah, this is what we found works well for us. And now here's how you make the recipe that we use. So here are some of our rat bait bars. And you can keep them in quite big chunks like that, or you can crumble it up or break them up smaller, whatever suits how you're using it. We actually still use the black bait stations and put a chunk of this in at a time, and that obviously helps to keep the bait safe from the elements and again from other animals or pets. I think they'd just get a bit thirsty if your dogs or cats did eat these. They certainly smell good, I know that much. Dan always wants to eat them when I've made them up, but I think he would get very thirsty as well. So we normally buy the ingredients in bulk, or we get it from places like pound stores, and then that keeps the cost of the ingredients right down and keeps it as affordable as possible as well. So I hope you have found this video useful today. If you have, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, because that really helps us to get our content out there. If you've got any questions, then pop them in the box down below. We always love hearing from you guys, and we look forward to catching you here again soon. Thanks for watching. Peace and plants.